Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Let me introduce myself. I am via Azzahra Rahmadita with NPM 234111011. On this occasion, I will present material based on the topics specified in the courses I'm taking. The material I'll discuss relates to important concepts relevant to both the academic world and practical applications. I hope that the explanation I have provided can be understood well and is beneficial for all of us. Okay, next I will go into the material discussion. In this slide, I will explain the meaning of cognitive bias in the context of accounting. Cognitive bias is a tendency to think less rationally and more rationally, which can influence how a person understands information and makes decisions. This bias arises from human limitations in processing complex information. In many situations, individuals tend to use quick or automatic thinking, often referred to as heuristic thinking. In the accounting context, cognitive bias can occur when an accountant, auditor, or financial manager must make decisions based on available data. Even though the data is objective, its interpretation is still influenced by the individual's way of thinking. For example, when estimating asset values or determining loss reserves, an accountant must use professional judgment. However, this judgment is not always completely objective, as it can be influenced by experience, beliefs, or even pressures from the work environment. Cognitive bias also often arises when individuals face limited time or information. In such situations, people tend to make quick decisions without conducting in-depth analysis. As a result, the decisions they make can be less accurate. Furthermore, this bias often occurs unconsciously. Individuals believe their decisions are correct, when in reality they are influenced by psychological factors. This is what makes cognitive bias a challenge in accounting practice. In this slide, we will discuss several types of cognitive bias that often occur in accounting decision-making. The first type is overconfidence bias. This bias occurs when someone is overconfident in their own abilities and judgment. In accounting, this can lead individuals to believe that their estimates or decisions are necessarily correct, without considering the possibility of error. As a result, individuals become less open to input from others. The second type is anchoring bias. This bias occurs when someone relies too heavily on initial information received. This initial information serves as an anchor in decision-making, making it difficult to adjust judgments even when new information becomes available. In accounting, this can influence the assessment of the value of certain assets or estimates. The third type is confirmation bias. This bias causes individuals to seek out and accept information that supports existing beliefs, while ignoring information that contradicts them. In accounting practice, this can lead to less objective decisions based on only partial information. The next type is availability bias. This bias occurs when someone relies on information that is easiest to remember or that has recently occurred. For example, if an event recently occurred and left a strong impression, individuals tend to consider that event more important than other information. These four types of bias demonstrate that accounting decisions are influenced not only by data but also by how individuals process that information. Therefore, it's important to recognize the different types of bias to avoid errors in decision-making. In this slide, I will explain the impact of cognitive bias on accounting decisions. Cognitive bias can significantly impact the quality of decisions made. One such impact is estimation errors. In accounting, many decisions involve estimation, such as asset valuation, depreciation, or loss allowances. If these estimates are influenced by bias, the results can be inaccurate. Furthermore, bias can also affect objectivity in the preparation of financial reports. Financial reports should reflect the true condition of the company. However, if bias is present, the information presented can be less neutral and tend to favor certain interests. Another impact is a decline in the quality of decision-making. Decisions based on bias tend to be less rational and fail to consider all available information. This can impact the company's overall performance. In the long term, cognitive bias can also undermine the trust of financial report users. If financial reports are inaccurate or non-transparent, investors and others will doubt the company's credibility. Furthermore, bias can also impact the audit process. Auditors who are unaware of bias may fail to detect errors or fraud in financial statements. Thus, cognitive bias can have a broad impact, both on individuals and organizations, so it needs to be managed well. In this slide, I will explain several ways that can be done to reduce cognitive bias in accounting decision-making. The first step is to increase self-awareness. Individuals must recognize that bias can occur in the decision-making process. With this awareness, individuals will be more cautious and strive to think more objectively. The second way is to use objective data and analysis. Decisions should be based on available facts and data, not just intuition or experience. Systematic analysis can help reduce the influence of bias. Another way is to involve others in the decision-making process. By discussing and receiving input from others, individuals can gain different perspectives and reduce the likelihood of bias. Furthermore, the implementation of standards and procedures is also crucial. Clear accounting standards and procedures can help limit subjectivity in decision-making. Companies can also provide training to employees about cognitive bias, so they better understand how bias can influence decisions. By implementing these steps, it is hoped that the decisions taken will be more rational, objective, and accurate. In conclusion, cognitive bias is a psychological factor that has a major influence on the decision-making process, including in the field of accounting. Although accounting is often perceived as an objective, numbers-based field, accounting decisions still involve human judgment, which is inherently biased. This suggests that psychological factors play a significant role in accounting practice. Various types of biases, such as overconfidence, anchoring, confirmation, and availability bias, can influence how individuals understand and process information. If unnoticed, these biases can lead to errors in decision-making and degrade the quality of financial reports. The impact of cognitive bias is felt not only by individuals but also by organizations as a whole. Mistakes in financial reporting can erode investor confidence, influence business decisions, and impact a company's reputation. Therefore, it is crucial for individuals and organizations to understand and effectively manage cognitive bias. Some steps that can be taken include increasing self-awareness, using objective data, involving others, and implementing clear standards and procedures. With these efforts, it is hoped that the decisions taken will be more rational and reflect the actual conditions. Ultimately, understanding cognitive bias not only helps in improving the quality of accounting decisions, but also in building a more transparent, accurate, and trustworthy financial reporting system. Thank you. That is the explanation that I can convey regarding the material that has been discussed. From this discussion, we can understand that the topics studied have an important role in supporting our understanding, both in theory and in their application in the real world. Hopefully this material can increase insight and be useful for all of us. I would like to thank you for the attention you have given. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.